G'day, welcome back, punters. The Mailbag Preview Show is back up and running with a big roster. We're going to rotate through the boys each and every week. That's our plan, and bring you previews from across Australia for races that interest us. This week's edition features the glue that holds the Mailbag Bloodstock together, Jonathan, the glove wearer, Rayner, and the OG, my man. They whisper to him and he tells you what they've said. The mounting yard guru, Rob Scurry. Bear in mind, guys, we're a day out from a federal election, and Rob's 100 days into his Trump presidency, so he's a little bit rattled, but he'll provide some colour as we look at 3 races in depth, and at the end of this show we'll provide you with a best from each of the boys. That's Lindsay Bowles, the Cotton King, MJ Pratt, Far Jack Jenkins, Pistol Pete, Mick Gannon, Tom Papley, Butch Bourne, and Jono. So, Jono, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. It seems fitting that us three kick off the revival of the preview show and to cover off some Adelaide Carnival, where that was the first time us three would have been together at the races, was Morphettville last year.
That was the infamous Pen Day. It was also the day that Rob refused to listen, and it was the day that Mark Zara finished off a beautiful day for us at Caulfield on, I believe, Chrissy Lee's runner. I can't remember its name, but anyway. Rob.
Brudenell.
Brudenell. How are you, man?
Good, mate. Looking forward to choosing between AIDS and cancer again. Can't wait. Think I might go with AIDS. It's a bit more get a bit more sympathy, bit more woke. AIDS is a bit woker than cancer, maybe.
How are you feeling about Donald? I mean, you're very much on the Donald bandwagon. You're 100 days in now. There's tariffs everywhere. He might have finally done a deal with Zelensky in the Ukraine.
That's good.
Joe Rogan's gently pulled him up, but he agrees with Joe. He's a great guy. Where are we at?
Look, the Democrats ran an unbelievably woeful candidate. That impossible to like. Clearly drunk a lot of the time. I think you can say that. They wouldn't shift on things like, gender reassignment surgery. So, it's just Trump turned out to be the common sense vote, which is hard to believe, but there we are. 100 days later, look, not thrilled, obviously, but we played the cards we're dealt. Zelensky, surprised he's still kicking around. But yeah, that should end soon enough, I'd hope. And they're going to get a much worse deal than they would have got 3 years ago if Boris Johnson didn't intervene and tell them to keep fighting.
Boris. All right.
Blow Joe.
And finally, how have you seen the political landscape in Australia? The election campaign. Peter Dutton was 10 lengths out in front, cruising in a beautiful rhythm. Had heaps of pony, and he started getting the ears scrubbed off him pretty quickly.
Look, I don't follow it like terrestrial TV. Like, who watches it anymore? We've all got our own. I don't think that's a controversial thing to say. We're all got our own
name for it.
Yeah, it's like, I've got my Foxtel and it says, "Would you like to plug in your antenna for terrestrial?" And I just go, "No, I've got no." I don't mean plug it in. So, we all watch what we want to watch. We're all in our own little sort of, bubbles. Look, he's very hard to like. Multi-millionaire bloody property owner that he is.
Child cares.
Look, he's got it all worked out for him. Doesn't really seem like one for the people. Are you getting these Trumpeter Patriot?
Yeah.
I'm getting them every day. I'm thinking maybe this is just because of me, my algorithm. Maybe that's why I'm getting them. But how do they get my number?
Nah. I don't know, but if Clive Palmer started an online bookmaker, he'd be getting fined so severely.
That's right.
It's a barrage.
I can't. When I send emails, part of the winery I work for, there's always an unsubscribe thing at the bottom. Like, why can't we unsubscribe from this? Anyway, look, he's probably getting another 100 million up the spout for him. I can't imagine him getting any votes. I certainly won't be voting for that fraud.
Back to racing. Godolphin, big shake-up this week. They've gone public, in a sense. They've always had a private trainer, Peter Snowden, John O'Shea, James Cummings, and now they're going to go public. James Cummings goes out on his own. It sounds like he'll be fed a decent amount of their horses, certainly in the short term. But you'd think likely that, it's a good opportunity for other stables. And if I was a betting man, which I am, you'd predict that they're going to go to the bigger stables, the Godolphin horses. What's the news been like up there, Rob, with that?
Well, I haven't. It's caught me by surprise. I read it like everyone else early in the week. I guess there was no one at Canterbury with the rain at Wednesday. Well, none of my usual crew, so I haven't really had anyone to discuss it with. So, mate, I can't give you the word on the ground, the word, to the wise. But is there going to be, obviously James Cummings is replaced, so we're in the process that they're going to need a new head trainer for Godolphin in Australia.
I don't think there's a head trainer. I think there's they place their horses with different trainers. I think that one of the main men at Godolphin was the main man for Cole McKenna, so you'll draw a pretty easy line to Kieran Maher. I'd say he's going to benefit from this significantly, if I was guessing. But I don't think they go to, say, a Kieran or a Chris Waller, and then, that's their head trainer. That's just they expect to be treated well, but that Kieran's training it, or Chris is training it, or James Cummings is training it.
Okay, so they'll keep are they going to sell off their, I think Agnes Bank's training facility, or they're going to keep that as a pre-training? I guess it's a watch this space. I don't know, but it is.
I guess the Sheik. Well, he doesn't need the money, but he's basically just got to talk to Mr. Zane, because who else can buy it? PVL probably can't buy it. They're trying to sell Rose Hill, so there's not a lot of people in the market for that sort of sized operation, is there?
No. Debbie, maybe.
Anyway, interesting stuff with Godolphin. It'll be really fascinating how hard they go at it moving forward. Do they focus on their own stock? How well does James Cummings go? What sort of support does he get? And do we start to see again those sort of imports that Godolphin were doing, say, 5 or 6 years ago? Your Cascadians, your Hartnells, those sort of horses. We haven't seen them for a little bit. It'll be interesting what happens in the short to long term there. John, anything of interest out of New Zealand? Very windy yesterday. The wheelie bins were blown away, you said, but you couldn't get them because you couldn't find your gloves, so you sent your missus out. What else has been going on?
Yeah. Our good racing is completely finished now. There's plenty of rain and abandonments galore. There's plenty of meetings getting halfway through and getting called off. So there's a fair bit of angst around the industry of tracks being called off and that races been called off. So we enter a very tricky patch, especially for punting on these heavy 10s, heavy 12s. They're almost out here, but see how we go.
All right, let's preview a race. Let's get to Caulfield, the Heath. A track that's hard to trust, but a week that's, I think, pretty much ideal and as good as it's going to get this time of year. We had a good amount of rain midweek, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, but as good a clear skies as we'll ever get this time of year. So they haven't had to overwater it. You'd anticipate it's as good as it gets. This rail position, it leans to being as fair as it gets at Caulfield, certainly historically. But again, it is a really hard horse to trust. We're going to preview race 8, guys, which is the Anniversary Vase over 600 metres. It's a listed race for 175,000, and the world's best racehorse last year, maybe, or the year before. Pride of Jenny leads it up as a $2.60 chance, and we have a runner in this race as well, John, in Windstorm, mate.
Yep, indeed. Yeah, he was heavily supported there last start at Bendigo. It was probably a fraction disappointing, but not suited on the day. So he can certainly bounce back. He's won twice at Caulfield in the past, drawn well. But yeah, as you said, Pride of Jenny, which one of hers shows up? Obviously, if the best one shows up, extremely hard to beat.
And we've just had the Mag Star come out as a scratching. It wasn't really a factor within this race, but it comes out. I thought that the speed in this race is pretty obvious and pretty genuine. I think that this is a really tricky race to bet into because you're taking a horse on trust or you're betting against a horse on hope. And that's Pride of Jenny. She's a bleeder, is my understanding or guess, which is why you sort of see brilliance, and then she puncture, and then she's brilliant. She's had a good gap between runs, which has always been a really good recipe for Kieran Maher. She's had a little tick over as well in there. And she comes to Caulfield where she ran almost a career PB last time she was here. So I think the race sort of starts and stops with her. I was surprised from our point of view as the bloodstock business with the amount of runners that wanted to take her on. I sort of thought we'd find a smaller field here. But having said that, I think you can make some money out of the race, and that's predominantly laying Regal Zeus. It was, I think maybe top of my head, John, 750 chance versus 650 Windstorm last start Bendigo. Now we see it as a $5 second favourite versus $13 Windstorm, and it was completely blessed there at Bendigo. None of these horses, particularly a leading sort of horse, have ever seen the tempo that this mare will show them on Saturday, and I think that will really, really bring this horse undone. I think he's the hole in the market in a race that's hard to get involved in. Helsing has the big fat SP over Windstorm, 2 back at Flemington, where it was half plain, but then it went to Adelaide and won well. It's got to be respected. I think She Light is the horse that might sort of soften late and could be a bet if you need to have a bet in this race. 750 is the best around right now. I think it's about a $7 chance. If you see evidence that the track is really fair, you can I could get that into $6. And She Light's probably the each way 1x3 to play what is a tricky race. Our horse Windstorm is definitely capable of winning this race, but that two things need to happen. He needs to turn up, there's 2 of him, and she needs to not turn up. And that's the same for every other horse in this race. She is significantly the best horse in this race. She meets this race well, I think, at the weights. And that's how I see it.
I was surprised how short Windstorm was given the track pattern that day. It was pretty evident early that it was, every leader was just about winning, yet they still back Windstorm, which I thought was very, very strange.
He's a tricky horse. Just say at Flemington when he ran really well, Rob, he was friendless. He was like 13s out to 30s. And should have won, probably.
Brutal. Backed him all the way out, as did you. But yeah, look, I think it's, if the horse, finds a nice rhythm, it could be running a place, and you probably are going to get $4 a place. So that seems almost fair enough to me. What's he now, like $10? I think he'll
13.
drift. 13.
Yeah, he'll drift.
Yeah, he'll drift. So, but the way this race sets up with the good speed guaranteed, I think that really, really suits him. He is maybe a little bit suspect at a mile, but the worst thing this horse does, our horse, is he can over race on slow speeds back, and I think he's guaranteed to get into a good rhythm here. He's run some good races at Caulfield, so anyway, I should probably stop talking about the Mailbag Bloodstock.com.au horse too much.
Jono at the Mailbag.com.au. We can talk about as much as we want. If you don't like it, don't listen. John, anything else to add?
No, not really. But what do you think of Pride of Jenny, the current price? And I guess since it opened, it's kind of just gone out. Do you make anything of that? Obviously, if the real one shows up, she wins.
I do a slide on Twitter every or trying to do it every week and every Monday, and the market has no idea half the time. I wouldn't worry about that. I think she's just so scary. If she's like the horse that ran 2 starts ago, she's $1.40 chance here just about.
Exactly. So is she more like a $2 shot? Is she flip of the coin? Which, if she shows up, she wins. If she doesn't, she doesn't.
Yeah, like from my point of view, the way I'm operating now, I'd just probably leave it alone, the whole thing. Probably try and get something out of Regal Zeus as a lay. But if I was on track, if we were all there as a group, the boys, and we were going good, and she is sort of like $283, I'd be very tempted to pile in if Peter said, she looks outstanding. So,
what, out of interest, do you remember what Peter's read on her last start was before she capitulated?
He gave her a very big push when she bolted in, and then he said she'd regressed in the Australian Cup. He's still a bit dirty, not tipping light infantry man in that, because he sent it out on top.
That's right.
Accountable unit betting advice. He was pretty happy with the parade of light infantry man, which he knows pretty well. He's always had a big rap on that horse.
But yes, wait and see what the yards.
So a little bit like that. But you got to think that with Pride of Journey is that they wouldn't run this horse unless she ticked every single box.
But she would have ticked every box in the Australian Cup and went like shit. That's the problem we got. So, but a great organic segue there. The mailbag.com.au. Pistol Pete Anthonys will be on track at Caulfield on Saturday. 9 races, Mounting Yard Mail. Head to the website if you want to get involved. It's a phenomenal tool to just clean up your opinions late and really hold your hand through what can be a tricky time of the year. We've got, Group 1 horses still going. Where are they at? Ask Peter. The next race we're going to do, guys, we're going to head to South Australia, the South Australian Derby, Group 1 for the 3-year-olds. 2,500 metres, Rob. We'll save the narrative and the opinion around should they be running this far and blah, 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 for another day. It's quite a competitive race. It sees a couple of fillies having a crack and a really hectic, busy speed map. We've got, I think, Lavalier with J. Carr, Dubai Focus. Gold Rush Guru from 17, quick backup, has to go forward, I think. American Wolf, Zara's on. What does he do? Rocktave, Saint Emilion, Global Eclipse, the fascinating horse, which is still in the market. We'll get to it later on, but I think it's going to be thereabouts. The really interesting map horses are the Compressings, the American Wolves, the Confetti Gardens, those sort of horses. How cold are they ridden? And are they ridden so cold that they sort of aren't winning chances, but they might hit the line really nicely and run 3rd, 4th, and you can play in your exotic Scurry style? And I think Staturio and Scintillate will be out the back with Cavity Bay. I've done my best to price this race up. I couldn't get Staturio near the price that it is. I agree it's going super, but an awful map and a significant step up here, I think, in tempo as well as anything else. And I just thought 320 is a joke. So I got it about $7, and that's sort of where I start to play. I don't like Lavalier at all either, but I don't think come game day, Rob, I'll get the chance to lay that horse. I think it will drift. The horse that really, really interests me is Global Eclipse. I don't know what to do here, but I think at the double figure price, John, you can just not overthink it. This horse could be $6, and I'd be thinking about having a bet because it was so fucking good last start at Cranbourne. It was unbelievable, but it was off like a barrier trial tempo. And what sort of platform is that for a derby? This is where the grey hairs start to roll in. I think if you want to bet the derby, you have to start with Global Eclipse. I think you need to have a significant result, and you'll be able to on the 13 Scintillate, who started $3.90 favourite against a lot of these. Last time it went to the races, it was plain, but you got to respect that SP. Compressing interests me a little bit at a fat price. It'll start 100 to 1, I reckon, or 80 to 1 on Betfair. it was plain, but it's still got a little bit of scope. It's one of the scopy horses. The scopiest is Global Eclipse, but compressing's certainly thereabouts. American Wolf, I think, ticks some boxes, as you can see from my prices. And Gold Rush Guru, I don't really like, but I respect, and that's why I've made it market. I think it's a really, really interesting race. Just with the good barrier 5, I think Global Eclipse is the each way bet of the day in Adelaide on Saturday. John?
Yeah, I had a quick look through this race, and I had a quick look through the past derbies, and I think from memory I had a look. The Chairman's Stakes normally 2 weeks out from this race, but it's only a week out this year, if I'm not wrong. So most of the runners come through that race on the 7-day backup. It's obviously whether they handle that. Global Eclipse was the one that interested me too. They obviously walked in that Cranbourne Maiden where he led, but he did run the fastest last 600, 400, 200 of the entire meeting, over 2,000 metres leading. So, yeah, they've walked. Obviously, that's a factor, but run...
he couldn't have done... Yeah, he's hard to stamp, but he couldn't have done anything more than he did from the 800 metres of that race.
Yeah. But like you said, a walk.
Closing sectionals from the 1,000 to 13.20, then a 12.40, then an 11.32, 6 of the 4, then an 11.16, then 11.56. The race was over. That's sustained acceleration. That's proper talent.
It's just, whether the setup suits 2,000, a walk over 2,000 up to 2,500, that's a bit dicey. The other one I thought I'd mention, as I normally do, was the Kiwi. Was impressive winning its maiden over once it got out to a trip. I think it will handle this trip down to the ground. That race, it came out of last start, where it finished third, narrowly beaten that Kiwi Skyhawk, and Zormella, who ran the Quinella, are both pretty talented. So I don't think it's completely out of it. Probably lands in a nice enough spot, and I think it'll stay the trip.
But did it not start $35 last start?
It did indeed. I think it'll run top half.
I wish he spoke as kindly about us, Rob, as he does about every horse that comes out of New Zealand.
What a owner breeder thing to say. Run top half, get a little bit of prize money. This is a punting. Yeah, this is a punting show, Jono.
Yeah,
top half, fourth, second.
On his mother's side, two back. There's a really good bit of blood.
It's going to be a decent enough price for you to have a small each way. Rock to Cam's a little bit of an unknown, sort of New Zealand, or not a big New Zealand sire, but side Antrim Coast, who ran in a couple of good stone races at the Valley from memory. Vin de Dance, he's our Rocky, who used to be quite good in Melbourne from memory. So, yeah, I think can run all right.
Rob, what do you got here? Any views? Any opinions?
Not really. First off, I'd like a horse to have run over 2,400 metres in the lead up, or I guess
old school baby.
Yeah, shout out Mark Lambourne, or 2,800 St Leger. I guess you can say that's the same, because it is a world of difference from 2,000 up to 2,400, and after that, I'd be looking at the stallions and the broodmares a little bit, and why you didn't mention the two Statuario, which seemed to bolt in at Caulfield. Melbourne Sydney form I would have thought would be good for a race like this.
No, I mentioned it at the start. I just don't want to be near it at the price. I think it's as good a chance as like American Wolf, those sort of horses. It's got John Allen on from barrier 2. It's got minimal tactical speed, and it's coming off very slow. It was a very slow tempo and a decent win for sure, but it beat Politely Done, who was, promised a bit last preparation and shown very little so far this prep. So I don't think it's A-grade form at all. I really liked its run first up behind Angel Capital. Then it was pathetic behind Feroce. Then it was okay to good behind Chanois, Moonee Valley. It's priced like it's progressed through this preparation on a steady upward trajectory, and it hasn't. So inside draw John Allen's enough to stop me anyway, to be honest. From barrier 2, this thing starts favourite. I would take $2 that this thing's one of the widest runners in the straight.
Sometimes that's not a bad thing at Moorfield. One of the more, I don't know, it's one of the fairer tracks in Australia. I reckon you can win from sort of anywhere. But often momentum out wide seems to get home pretty well. I noticed my mate Cosmic Force has got one in Dark and Confidential. I wouldn't think that would be a stoutly bred horse, but here it is. Shows the versatility of an up-and-coming.
I must say, on that, the pedigree, the Global Eclipse, the pedigree certainly doesn't scream 2,500 Pierata out of a Fastnet Rock mare that most of the siblings sort of only won at about 1,000. There doesn't look too much stained blood in the pedigree page, so that's possibly a concern.
And is it going to be even? These races are generally run pretty slow. Would you say that?
I'd say like it'd be favourite to be slow to even for the class tempo to the 600.
Okay, and Gold Rush.
I think the slower they go, the keener you'd get. Like hypothetically, if you were there and betting in run, and you could analyse the sectionals on the fly there, old school style. And Global Eclipse is just like third pair and they're walking.
Yeah.
Then its turn of foot would really turn me on at the sort of 600.
Yeah, agreed.
If it's a proper test, then I think we sort of lean back to the American Wolves and those sort of horses.
Gold Rush on type. Gold Rush Guru is an old school leggy style of stayer. Looks like a stayer. Its form, it's run in all the best races. But what price are we getting him? I'm not sure if he might be on the slide a little bit, but
really strong SP last start. Just it's up and down, and it profiles like his best might be behind him. But he would have been, you'd expect last week was a little bit of an entree for what's to come on Saturday. So yeah, if he improved, I would not be shocked. That's why I respect him a lot, and I made him market, and I can, I'll move that price with the market.
All right, it's probably enough on a fake Group 1.
There he is.
Morphettville, the next race. Yeah, we got there. Race 7, the Adelaide Guineas 600 metre listed race. This race is fascinating. A heap of Victorian form and a moderately low pressure speed map, in my opinion. Harumph for Gregor Urell and Jay Carr, I think's the speed. Sunday George was in and a $30 chance. This thing was $4 to 12 in a benchmark 58 last start at Sale. Kieran's accepted with it in Adelaide in a listed race, and they've gone up $30. Unbelievable. It's now scratched. On display, Sneaky Sunrise from 8 and 5, respectively, have to make decisions. I think Sneaky Sunrise will use the gate. It gets Winker's first time, which can straighten it up a little bit. Didn't miss many, and the Wirrallah Boy, I think, will be thereabouts. Teardrop Rotations are scratching. Somewhere is a fascinating horse with genuine scope and upside. Really, really exciting horse. I think Esterne is the other horse with a bit of scope here and goes back. There's 4 horses that like I've followed and watched and I'm really excited by. That's Harumph, Somewhere, On Display, and Esterne. And I respect Sneaky Sunrise and didn't miss many, ticks a couple of boxes. They're the ones I'm playing around. Just with J Carr, the map, the lightly raced, on the up. Harumph, I think, is the best bet in Adelaide significantly on Saturday. Did at both ends Sandown. Now, this is tin hat stuff, Rob. I like the reverse Golden, so inside to outside draw, because it's going to roll forward with J Carr. There's no pressure. This is a 3-year-old gelding that won a 64 by 2 lengths last start. Why, oh why, is it going to a listed race for fuck all prize money? Is Greg saying to us, wink, wink, nod, nod, this is like a superstar, so I may as well just I get the rating up now because I need to run in the good races next prep? Because I'd be running a 70 somewhere, picking up that check. 78. Just picking up all the checks. They're skipping all the checks. They don't want the money. They want the glory. They're going for it. It maps outstanding, and I think it's a really, really easy bet to have. On display is way too short. Started $41 last week or two, like last start versus Salotti's and got beaten. It's talented as, and there's versions of this horse that are very, very good. It's not absolutely consistent. It was ridden real aggressive to beat our horse that'll win hopefully tonight, Grouse Mountain, first up at Ballarat. On display was. It was put into the race by D-Lane. Price Kent deep into a prep scares me. Sneaky Sunrise is really hard to knock from the inside draw. One of the worst rides all time tactically last start. Luke Curry just sat 3 wide like a statue at Mornington. No cover. If it improves, it'd make sense. Somewhere goes John Allen to Mark Zara. Inside draw, 750 SP versus Wonder Boy. Go and watch its run. Go and watch its first win at Ballarat. It's had 3 starts this horse. Then it went to Caulfield on a bog shit track and was slaughtered and enormous. This horse has proper ability. I'm just thinking over 600 metres it'll get there, but it won't get there in time. And the other horse that really fascinates me, and I think once I get stuck into Harumph, hard to say, Esternay as well, Dan Stackhouse, I think he goes back from 12. The last start win was good. It was the 6th fastest last 200 and 100 of the day. It looks like it wants every bit of 600 metres. Shin off, Stackhouse on, barrier 12. They're the two that really interest me, only really because Esternay is the one that the market sort of disrespected. You know what I mean?
I've got very little to say, but I was listening keenly to Jack's tinfoil hat stuff regarding Harumph, and that sort of.
Do you see how deep I've gone there?
Yeah, I do. They want the rating up.
I don't know.
Right.
It'd be great if someone on the radio asked them and they tweeted it and I saw it. But
yeah, look, he's pretty astute, Graham Begg.
That's Greg Urell.
Sorry, Greg Urell.
Is he astute, Rob?
Funnily enough, Neville Begg Investments Breeding. That's where I must have got it.
In the horse?
Yeah, breeder. Neville Begg Investments.
Oh,
Neville was Graham's dad, champion, monopolise, Hong Kong, 94, 95 winner. Remember following my money after I ran second at the last day of the carnival at Flemington. Went to Hong Kong. Anyway, yeah, look, I've got nothing to add, mate. Harumph sounds, I love the reverse golden switch you've said here. How did it line up on the class average, all average for that win? Did it smash it?
Smashed it and did it both ends.
Oh, I love a horse that can do it at both ends. And I love Jamie Carr on a front runner too. So
yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
You've made a lot of cases. It sounds like a win place multi-league to me.
When I had a look at the race last night, I was actually leaning to the fillies. You've sort of played a good case for Harumph, especially looking at your map there. Looks to get a pretty solo lead. As you said, Jamie Carr good on a leader. I liked Sneaky Sunrise and On Display. Sneaky Sunrise. You go back to its form at the start of this prep. Seedler Cap, not far off it. Treasure the Moment, another profit. Across the line with there in the Cooney, Group 2 Cooney. Gets the old winkers on. Hayes Trick. Draws well. Todd Pannell knows the track like the back of his hand. So I thought that was worth a little bit at what were we getting there? $7 about that.
I think I agree. That Sneaky Sunrise 6. It's the best credentialed horse in this race. But the progressive one is Harumph. That's
yeah. And the other, I thought On Display held up absolutely deluxe behind Zalotti's, although, as you said, it was paying 41s. It probably should have won. Depends, obviously, how it handles the backup. But, it was very impressive, albeit just in a Ballarat maiden. When it beat Grouse Mountain, it sat wide throughout and was pretty impressive there. And
maybe the husband and wife can roll forward together here. Ben Mellum's on display, replacing Rochelle Mills. So But it gets the reverse golden, and I don't like the reverse golden at all for this horse. It's a midfield sort of, sit, smoke, and attack horse. I don't, the barriers talked me out of this a little bit too. And if you look at it, like, I think what it did first up was its best run this prep. And the runs that have sort of caused, like the mailbag guys and the my subs, we love this horse a little bit. We got a little bit of a thing for it because we backed it first up when it was fucking enormous behind Jasmine Rouge. That was over 1,200. And you got to sort of sometimes, I think, John, remember, like, I love this horse because of what it did over 1,200 or a mile, or this is a mile, and I don't know. It was very good, held up, but it was off a very slow tempo. It was the fourth fastest last 100 of the day last start. Tick, 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 but it did start $41 versus Lottie's.
I just want to roar harump.
It's probably too short in the market, given all that, but it's but still a winning chance, no doubt.
All right, guys, that's our preview for the 3 races we're going to do for episode 301. We're calling it. We're back for the Mailbag preview shows, powered by Punting Form. It's a database I use, and you should too if you want to take yourself seriously. Start investing in your own brain and your own ability. Weekend ahead, John, for Mailbag Bloodstock, please, and thank you. And while you're at it, if you could just recap the horse of the week for us from a sales point of view. We've got shares available in the Hanseatic, who did an outstanding piece of work alongside a sharp enough, smart enough, early enough horse for the Hayes boys.
Yep, first gallop of the preparation was with Ethereum Girl, who won her first 3 trials before heading to Flemington on debut in a $150,000 2-year-old race. Started 390. Did somewhat fail on that occasion. Format of the race has been extremely strong though. Horse that just finished in front of it has won a 2-year-old midweek race since.
And the raps on Ethereum Girl remain very strong within the camp, which is the important thing.
Yeah, and
it's a very big push for our Hanseatic filly. She's done a really good job through the week, and it's getting really, really exciting for her. She's cheap versus what you need to pay for a Hanseatic. She's cheap versus what you should be paying for a yearling of ability. We have shares available if you are interested. Jono at themailbag.com.au. The week ahead, John, we got 3 runners across the weekend, most likely. Maybe a 4th. We kick off tonight at Cranbourne.
Yep, race 7 at Cranbourne. Grass Mountain has had plenty of scratchings in the race. It's a bit strange on a...
They're running scared, bro.
Yeah. The favourite stays in, but Grass Mountain looks a very good chance, I think. Majorel has accepted Eagle Farm and Grafton, but looks unlikely to go to either with wide draws and possibly Grafton being called off. Order to Charge is an emergency at Newcastle, but with a heavy track, you'd expect he gets a run for sure, and he'll love that. He was a little bit of a sneaky run there first up. He did run last, but he was on the inside, which was definitely inferior. It was a good ground. He'll love it. He's won over the track and distance, but he'll love the wet ground. Windstorm, as we talked about, Caulfield race 8, and that's it for the weekend.
The best of those guys is Grouse Mountain tonight at Cranbourne. If you get this out in time, guys, and you watch it in time, it's about 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. jump tonight. I think that's the best of ours this weekend. Righto, the weekend best bets from the entire team. Lindsay Bowles, a Cotton King, Caulfield race 1, number 1, Prestige, Olay, MJ Pratt, slow, left arm, medium from the pavilion end. Morphettville race 6, number 1, Silent, Sorrente. Farjack, Jack Jenkins, Caulfield race 7, number 5, The Muffin Man. Pistol Pete, Ascot race 5, number 3, Bannard. Mickey Gannon, Eagle Farm. The 16, Churchill's Choice. My Best, Caulfield race 5, the 4, Oak Hill. Look, with all due respect, I love that this horse is now under the care of Lindsay Park. I expect a gentle improvement in performance and likely tactics. T. Papley's best this weekend, Hawkesbury Race 10, number 7, Gallant Star. He's also got Get a Fix in, I think, the Hawkesbury Guineas. Was a big price, like swimmer, Thorpe sort of stuff. Wants it wet, gets it wet. So if you're not having a bet in that race, just cheer home Paps' horse. Get a Fix for Johnny O'Shea and Charlton. Scurry. Now, look, I've checked this and I'm okay with it. I think it's actually a great bet, but this is actually a little bit of an entente from Robertos because of the election on Saturday. He's gone for Hughes, which is a seat he thinks that the Liberals will win, but it's also a horse that we both think will win. Caulfield, race 9, number 7, Hughes. Butchie Bourne's, he wanted to go greens over seats 1 on Saturday night, but I said, let's not trigger the entire racing industry on the first episode. Can you find something else? He said, sweet. So we've got West Coast plus 12.5 and the Suns plus 9.5. So 2 underdogs there in the AFL. And Jono, talk us through your best bet this weekend.
Yeah, race 7 at Tarapa, number 5, Uderzo. He doesn't win out of turn, but he was very, very good there in the Easter handicap last start at Ellerslie. Warren Kennedy, I think, will really suit him. He's a horse that needs to be revved up. Warren Kennedy, very strong rider. And yeah, I thought it was an open race, but here's my top pick on a day that looks pretty tricky there at Tarapa.
Guys, that's been the Mailbag Preview Show, episode 301. Remember, chances are you're about to lose, unless you buy my stuff. Themailbag.com.au, silver service package, or you get Scurry's Mounting Yard Mail. The horses whisper to him, he'll tell you what they do. You can go and look at our results, which would say the chances are you're going to win. If you do want some support with your gambling, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org. .au. But again, chances are you will win if you come and bet with us. Have a phenomenal weekend. Bye for now.